Hey everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Deckin Around. Today, we're really excited to have Lance T. Miller on the show to talk about his upcoming appearance at the 52 Plus Joker convention. But before you jump into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And ring the bell.
So what's up, Lance? How you doing today, man?
Chilling, man. How about you guys?
We are doing well, yeah. So you excited to be a speaker at the upcoming convention?
Yeah, man. I've done it a couple of times now, and this is a little bit of a different format, right? The digital format, but I'm super stoked. It provides some unique opportunities that we haven't had in the past, so I'm really excited to see how that turns out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people are going to be able to see the show, and that normally wouldn't be able to make it due to traveling or expenses or different things like that. So it's going to be really cool, and I think there's going to be a big turnout and kind of opening up everybody's eyes to the power that is 52 plus.
Exactly.
Yeah. It should really be quite interesting. So how did you first get involved with 52 Plus Joker?
Originally, it was through a friend of mine, Steve Brooks. He is a renowned collector of uncut sheets of playing cards, and he's of course working on a book regarding the map deck.
Cool.
That was put out by several different playing card companies, but he's got the inside track on that, so I won't spoil any of that information.
Nice.
But he was like, hey, I've been collecting cards for a while. I really think that you should come check out this convention. At the time, there weren't a lot of designers coming to the convention, and so it was kind of the insistence of Steve Brooks that brought myself and Jackson Robinson and a couple of other people to the convention, and then we each told each other, like, hey, you got to get out there. So I called Paul Carpenter, Randy Butterfield, and just was like, hey, everybody needs to get their butts out here. Now, I've only been there once, like every other year or so, because I can't make it out each year consecutively, but it's started an enduring trend of the designers coming and being part of the show, and we've brought much younger audience as well along with us.
Nice.
Yeah, there's definitely a big turnout for designers. A lot of designers kind of reveal their upcoming deck at 52 Plus Joker. It's kind of a nice reveal convention, other than just like gathering and informational. There's a lot of cool things that go on.
Absolutely. So now, as you mentioned, you're a playing card designer. What decks would we know that you've done?
The first one that actually got me a little bit of fame, the Bicycle Gargoyles.
Nice.
My first commercial product with the Bicycle Playing Card Company back in 2011 was when it was released, but I had been working on it since 2009.
Nice. I love the duct tape on the tuck.
Oh, I know. So this was the very first one that I opened and used, and it still works. It still fans beautifully.
That's awesome.
It was the first one to use a special finish that they were developing at the time. In-house, they called it the magic finish.
Okay.
So that's
really cool.
I was one of the first ones to get to use that.
Nice.
Other than that, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what that's pretty cool that you were the first one to use it. We were actually just talking about a deck that is getting released that is using it recently.
Yeah, I can't claim I'm the first one to have used it. I was one of the first.
Yeah, one of the first. That's cool. That's a cool thing to claim as well.
Yeah. What is the first, though, is, as far as I know, I was the first one to put a QR code. I don't know if you can see that. I was the first one to put a QR code on the bottom of a deck of cards.
Really cool.
Because I had been working with Kodak and a bunch of other printers to develop microprinting technology. And so this was actually done as a giveaway for a printing expo. And
wow.
So we threw a bunch of technology on there. There's microprinting on here that's an anti-counterfeit measure that sits right in the center, right there.
Okay.
That you can only see with a very certain type of visual device.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting kind of way to market something like that. Playing cards. I think a lot of times when people think of microprinting or counterfeit, anti-counterfeiting measures, they think money. So playing cards is probably a lot easier of a way to test those sort of things without committing significant amounts of currency to either failing or succeeding.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So that was my first deck of cards, and probably one that I'm most originally known for. Other than that, I was also one of the first ones on Kickstarter with a deck of playing cards called the Bicycle Actuators. It was a steampunk themed deck of playing cards, and I released that in early 2012, I want to say. And we did 3 editions of that because the first one did so well. People were like, "Hey, we need a black and white edition," and so I put out 2 different variant backs. One was a very light theme and one was a very dark theme. I was like, do you want this to be your black and white or do you want this to be your black and white? And they said, well, why not both? So I did the white edition and then the black edition.
Nice.
Yeah. Being a designer, right? Somebody tells you, hey, why not both? You go back into it and you go, yeah, I could make this 2 different products. So.
Yeah.
And I think one of the cool things about that there too is something that we don't always see in Kickstarter these days, actually listening to the people and allowing the audience to make your decision for you, because ultimately, you know, they're the ones who are going to be buying the product. If they like both, go for it. If they have feedback, it's always good to listen to your potential clients as to what they think would or would not work for a deck.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think other than that, the Fox Targets that I released with Murphy's Magic was one of my more recent ones that's really well known. I've worked on a couple of other ones that are lesser well known that you may not have even realized I had a part in. But let's see. I have one right here. A series that I did with Murphy's Magic. And
Truth and Lies.
Nice.
Truth and Lies.
Yep.
And so I spent 35 hours figuring out how to get those 2 packages to link up like that, so those medallions would read all the way across.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
But so somebody else designed the Lies deck and the packaging, and then I did some work on the medallions as well as the Jokers and a couple of other pieces within.
Nice.
See, lesser well-known Vanda Playing Cards. I did some art direction on the Planet series.
Nice.
You guys can find that credit on the Vanda Playing Cards website as well as the Kickstarter for that originally.
Very cool.
But, yeah. So I've been advantaged or blessed rather to have a hand in several things, and then that's at the table playing cards. It's just a casino deck for Murphy's Magic that they did for their at the table series.
That's cool.
Yeah. So then you've definitely got a good amount of experience as a designer, and you know, I think that ties in nicely. Yeah, and obviously, you know, you've been in the. Obviously, you said your first deck was in the works in 2009, but actually, you know, put out by USPCC in 2011. How much have you seen the process of creating a deck of cards? Whether maybe not so much the design element, but the actual, you know, communication side of it. How different is it dealing with USPCC or large printers now versus back in 2011?
So originally, they didn't actually have any desire to work with smaller designers or anything like that. And I was part of a program very originally. I had to come in through Diavoli, being a publisher, in order to get my foot in the door with them. And then after that, I made, you know, some headway with Murphy's Magic and a couple of other publishers and things like that. But when I was doing my actuators deck and I wanted to go in on my own, there was a lengthy legal process that we had to go through. There were not very cut and dry policies as there are now. It was kind of a pioneering thing. They were like, you know, we don't really like doing small runs, but if you really want to, we're going to charge you a lot more for it up front. So I didn't actually make a lot of money on the projects, but that wasn't my goal anyway. It was just, you know, I wanted to do something really cool and have a product out there that people would be really excited to use and carry with them.
That's awesome.
Or collect. You know, I think my biggest thing was I wanted to have something that magicians could use and actually be a functional magic product. Being a magician in my background, I knew at the time collectors were looking something that was supremely collectible, and I asked, you know, what would make this collectible? And they said, well, if you could individually serialize the boxes, we would know that it was collectible. So I actually had them hand stamp in gold and silver ink on the different editions, the 0 through 2500
That's sick.
series.
Nice.
In addition to adding that micro printing, that anti-counterfeiting in there, that means if you see one of those decks of cards out there, it's mine.
That's crazy.
Like,
That's
that's
awesome.
going to be a very hard thing to duplicate. So,
Yeah.
and again, I lost a lot of money on it, but it was just really something to put out there to say, hey, I'm here, I'm making a statement. You know, I want to raise the quality of the products that we're generating, both for magicians and collectors, and card flourishers. XCM and cardistry was an up and coming thing at the time, and it wasn't on the tips of everybody's tongues, and especially not on designers. Designers didn't really understand how to bring different things in there so that they could function while being in motion.
Yeah,
And my actuator series, I think, was the first one to really tap into that.
that's really cool.
Nice.
And so you mentioned that your background was a bit of magic, dude. How long have you been involved in magic?
Since I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good age.
Yeah, my brother worked at a magic shop when he was a teenager, so he'd come home and teach me a bunch of different stuff. And the very first trick I learned was how to make a card float around the room and all this other stuff. And
That's cool.
so from then on, I dabbled with a bunch of different things and even did magic tricks when I worked with a traveling clown in the heart of DC.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was super fun, man.
That's awesome, though, for real.
But at some point, I had to choose. I was going to, either be a magician or I was going to be an artist. And hopefully, the decision speaks for itself. The art shows. But the cool part was it came back around when I started designing playing cards. People were like, "Hey, you need to get back into magic again." And so, of course, that has since then picked back up. And now I do a lot of magic and work on a bunch of different projects.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And I'm sure helping to pioneer the custom playing card side of things really helped build the relationships too, to get you to know a lot of the people from the magic side of things who work with the same companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Right on.
And so when you first started really stepping into the custom design of playing cards, was this something that I think you kind of mentioned that it wasn't something you were looking to make money on. It was looking to get your name out there. But was this something that you really thought of, like, hey, this sounds like a good opportunity? Or was it more or less something that you kind of fell into?
I fell into it, honestly. So even my very, very first playing card design that got me noticed by Diavoli and Kodak and a bunch of other companies was just a business card. I wanted a significant piece that if I put it in somebody's hands, they would be like, hey, I'm going to hire this kid. Right, I was fresh out of college, had failed a business that was trying to launch and everything like that. Was I don't want to say down on my luck, but it was not a good period in my life in general. And I was going through a job placement agency, and they said, "Hey, we need you to make a business card to go along with your resume. And your resume needs to speak to who you are, and your playing card or your business card needs to speak to who you are." And I said, "Well, I've carried a deck of cards in my pocket since I was 7 years old. Why not do a playing card, business
That's
card?"
cool.
And so that was kind of where that went. And from that point, I didn't really start thinking of making it a career until even after my first series on Kickstarter. And that was when the publishers started contacting me and saying, "Hey, we want to work with you. We want you to, tighten up our products or create your own custom line within our brand." And yeah, that's
cool.
it's just crazy, man.
That's really awesome. And I think that's always exciting to hear when, you do kind of fall into these things that just take you by storm, and all of a sudden you're, 8 years down the road and it's like, wow, this has been hell of a journey so far.
That's when you're doing something right too, is when people are knocking on your door rather than you reaching out. And I think there's kind of that phase or that period in one's kind of climb in fame, success, call it whatever you want, where you do have to reach out and try to get your name out there, get involved with different things. But when people start reaching out to you and knocking down your door, you're doing something right, and you just gotta put your head down and go with it.
Yeah, I feel like I did something right because I mean, not only
Yeah.
did I get my career off the ground, I also helped, Jackson when he was first starting on Kickstarter, Paul Carpenter, again, Randy Butterfield. These are some of the names that most of the rest of the industry knows,
Yeah.
and even Alex Chen, right?
Yes.
When he was just getting started out, I was giving him every bit of information I had gathered and been like, look, this is how not to do it. Like, just don't do it that way. Go do this
That's
instead.
awesome.
Right.
Let me save you some money. And then they've pioneered their own. I'm not taking anything away from them. They have each pioneered their own way within the industry, um, well beyond that. And now they're actually mentoring other, young and up and coming designers and stuff like that. So it's really kind of cool. I think to see the growth of the industry in general and how everybody has turned around and picked up their fellow person and been like, "Hey, let's go. This is how you do this."
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
that really speaks a lot to the community as a whole is that, like you said, you didn't get into it necessarily for a lot of these projects to make money, but to get your name out there and really do something that you were passionate about. But the fact that we're all so passionate about sharing that information and sharing that love with people, whether it be through designing a deck of cards or helping someone new to the scene get into it, I think it does speak volumes for this community that's, started out as Magic and fractured into Magic and playing cards and cardistry, and who knows where it'll go next even.
Right, right.
So one of the things that obviously we're having you on here to talk about a little bit is the discussion that you're going to be having at the convention this year. So why don't you give a little bit of a background on what your topic will be for the convention?
So one of the very most common questions I always get asked is, how do you do that? How do you design a deck of cards? How do you design a back of a playing card? And so I can generally very quickly go through a few of the basic things that I point out, like, hey, you have to make sure there's enough coverage in the corners to cover pips so the pips don't show through, when the light hits it. There's a lot of visual cues that you have to include if, like, it's a product for a magician and, they need to be able to have resources to pull off specific tricks and things like that. That's kind of what we're going to go through, is how to take an idea from a simple sketch, a piece of inspiration, if you will, and lay out a basic back design. But the whole time that I'm talking, I'm probably going to be talking also about what the deck could become, what it
Right.
could entail, how once you start building in research and history and all of these other types of elements, how the deck can transform into something way bigger. And that's actually, you guys had asked about some of my other decks of cards. One of the ones that I've been more recently known for is all the holographic playing cards with Vertex International.
Right.
Getting into doing holographic technology on playing cards was just insane. So I'm going to pull a lot of that in to what we're doing, and specifically that research aspect that went into the Vertex playing cards, I think is one of the strongest projects I've worked on to date.
Yeah. It's
Very
definitely
cool.
a cool project and really sleek design and just really out of the box from any other playing cards. I think it's cool to be able to kind of go through that process with you. It's something that you see a lot with musicians. I've been on music cruises with my photography, and sometimes they have these songwriting seminars, I guess you can say, where a specific musician stands up and with the people that go, they create a song, and at the end of the cruise, they sing the song that they wrote together. So it's like
that's amazing.
So I think it'd be really rad while you're doing that. Maybe get some ideas from the crowd, and maybe you can create a deck out of it, and it can be just like a 52 plus convention deck or something. And maybe I think people connecting to it or whatever would be kind of cool. Yeah.
So that actually brings up a good point. When I was doing the Actuator series, I was also live streaming that on Twitch at the time, and people who had been backers at a certain level were allowed to come and watch me finish the process and work on it.
Okay.
That's
And
awesome.
a few of them actually have their initials buried in a couple of the
Oh,
designs
cool.
of playing cards, because I would be working on it and they would say, "Hey, I dare you to put all of our initials in there right now." And so I zoomed in like really, really far, and again, like microprinting, just kind of added in that little detail. And
That's really cool.
if you zoom in on the card, you can see it. It's there.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
And so looking back, and I think this is something that I always like to ask designers because I feel like it's a tough question. Looking back, out of all the decks you've worked on, which has had the most meaning to you? But also, do you ever sit there looking back and say, man, I can't believe I designed that deck? Or why didn't I do this? And like have all that kind of like, now knowing all that you do know about design, look back at a deck and be like, man, if I was going to do that now, it'd look completely different.
I don't like to look back on things on regret. I do like to learn. And so I've learned, if I'm going to put out a limited edition deck of cards, I need to put out an unlimited deck of cards, because that's been the single biggest thing, right? I have people that still come to me and are like, "Hey, can I get this deck of cards?" And I'm like, "Dude, I sold out of those in 3 weeks. I'm sorry, there's not another edition of them." I'm planning on going back and doing a couple of 10th year anniversary ones for a few of the bigger projects and stuff like that. But even still, that's not going to have that same impact as that first project. And
Yeah.
so again, no regrets. But I learned that I need to make sure that I leave myself some room to grow the product line and to have that ability to continue to fund my day-to-day activities while I work on my newer projects that I chase down.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so out of all the decks you've designed so far, what has been your favorite or most meaningful to you?
Probably that business card, honestly.
Yeah.
That's not yet a deck of cards, but I have over 120 hours in just the back design of that alone.
Wow.
Do you have it? Can we see it?
Not presently. Hold on. It's probably in my room, and I don't want to just like get up and go show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good.
But I can send you guys a picture of it.
Yeah, we'd love to check it out. I'm
cool.
interested to see what it will look like.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll pop it in the video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look it up. It's on deviantart.com, and it was under the name Multimiller, Multimiller. That was the brand that I was using at the time.
Okay.
So
definitely have to check it out. That seems like an interesting kind of start to such a long-standing career. I think that's really cool, though.
Thank you.
And so, good.
Oh, I was going to say it hasn't just been playing cards. That's the cool part. All of the work that I did in playing cards transitioned into board games as well. And so I now work on large scale board games, and I've got a couple of projects that have, shipped 10,000 units.
Oh, wow.
And, it's kind of neat, that juxtaposition of working on something that's as small as a deck of playing cards and working on something that's as large as a board game that has 250 custom illustrations to it. And a lot of the industry doesn't even know I work on those things. So it's neat to work on different things in the background, but see them go out into the world and make impacts all over the place.
Yeah, no, that is really cool.
Are we allowed to know what board games you worked on, or?
Yeah. So one of them was Santa's Workshop with Rio Grande Games, and it ended up becoming the breakout game of 2009.
Okay.
Nice.
Or no, not 2000. Hold on. 2019.
Okay.
It was like it was recent. It was at Origins Game Fair, and we became the breakout game for that summer, which is really funny, right? Because it's a Christmas themed game, but it was a summer event, and it just took off. People were playtesting it, and it was really, really awesome. And that was my first major one that was 100% mine. Like the logo, the box cover artwork, everything was all mine. And I did a special deck of cards that went along with that. That's in the game.
Oh, cool.
So
nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And so now, going forward, do you find that you're more drawn to board games versus decks of cards, or is it kind of a little bit of they both hold a special place for you and you like to do both?
Yeah, they both hold a very special place for me for different reasons. I mean, the playing cards because, of course, being a magician and having grown up with magic in my life. The board games because I come from a very large group of siblings. So there were 6 of us that were always sitting around wanting to hang out and play board games and stuff like that. And so that became a major part of our life. And now there's 7 of us. Young sister that's been added since then.
Right.
And we have now, like, every time I go back for a family holiday or something like that, it's board games nonstop. And
That's
I've gotten
awesome.
them addicted to all kinds of different board games that we've introduced them to. But yeah, it's a big staple in my family. So there's
Awesome.
both of them have a very special place in my heart.
That's cool. I remember playing Monopoly for hours.
Monopoly never ends well, though. That's just the truth of it. Like, no one walks away from a Monopoly game feeling good.
No,
Except for the
there's always one person that's gonna hate the other person. Whoever's
Yeah.
like the banker always ends up stealing money.
I mean, listen, if you're not cheating, you're not playing to win, right? Like,
Right.
just saying.
I don't think I've ever known or have played a game of Monopoly where someone hasn't cheated.
That's the whole game right there. I mean, it's based on capitalism, so
20 for you, 20 for me. 20
Right.
for you, 20 for me. What do you mean? I bought Boardwalk 3 turns ago.
What? Reading Railroad just happened to fall into my I don't know what you're talking about.
How'd you get all 4? This is our second roll. I have no idea.
2-for-1 special.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I have to say too, I think, for a game that causes such derision in families, there are a lot of versions and a lot of them sold. So
Oh my God. Yeah. Whoever created that game is a genius.
Yeah. I mean, he probably, at this point, if he's still alive, is Mr. Moneybags.
Yeah. I'm sure he lives on Boardwalk and Park Place and Marvin Gardens.
Oh my gosh, I love it. But I think that's interesting too, because there is such a connection at a base level to playing cards in that card game side of things and board games that I think a lot of people don't necessarily make the connection. I've seen some people who, like you, have made that transition from playing cards to board games, either successfully or in transition still or unsuccessfully. But I think a lot of people almost wouldn't even consider the correlation between them. And it really, like, so many board games use playing cards.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but like even role-playing games, right? Like D&D and Pathfinder and Savage Worlds. Each one of those has mechanics in there for a deck of playing cards. So when I'm at a board game convention, I'll get people that come up and they're like, "Hey, can you do a deck of cards with this theme?" And I'm like, "Sure, I can. I don't know if you would want to pay the price I'm going to charge you, but yeah, I could do it." But I've been privately commissioned to do a couple of special projects for people that they just took and used for their personal use.
That's cool.
And that's why I said there's some things that I've worked on that aren't out there. They're not in the public eye and they weren't mass produced, and but they were just as special and just as important.
Nice.
You want to do me a favor? I have this really cool idea for a Black Lotus card. Will you create it for me?
Yeah, go back and mess up the edges, make it look really, kind of vintage and
yeah.
I don't. What game could you possibly be referencing?
I don't honestly. I don't know the name of the game. I just know there's a Black Lotus card that's worth a lot of money.
I love
Is it Pokemon?
No, it's not Pokemon. For love of God, it's
you legit don't know it? Yeah, it's Magic the Gathering.
Steve legit didn't know. Yeah, it's Magic the Gathering. That's what I love about it.
What's interesting about that is when I tell people that I design Magic cards, right? I'm talking about playing cards, but other people are like, "Wait, you do Magic the Gathering?" And I'm like, "No." But I do. I have my mentor actually has over 150 Magic the Gathering cards to his credit.
That's awesome.
And he's the reason that I got into fantasy art and subsequently into board games. Without that draw, without him pulling me to my first board game convention, I wouldn't actually be in the industry on that side of things either.
That's awesome.
So it's really interesting how the whole correlation happens, and that job, that growth with him as a mentor only happened because of that angel back playing card that I told you guys that I designed to be my personal business card. I showed it to him and he was like, holy shit, this is the coolest card I've ever seen.
That's
awesome.
Like,
cool.
Wait, hold on. I've grown up with your artwork over here on Magic the Gathering, and you're telling me this is the coolest card. Okay, hold on. And so that was kind of my like wake up call to go out there and actually start doing something with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because whenever I go to the post office, and obviously I run a card store, and I always bring a ton of boxes, and they're like, "Oh, what are these?" I'm like, "Oh, they're playing cards, for Magic." And they're like, "You sell them?" I was like, "Yeah, I sell them." And they go, "Like Magic the Gathering?" I'm like, "No, I don't know anything about that stuff. This is for magic tricks, like magician." And they're like, "Oh."
Right.
It's funny.
Steve, well, one day we're gonna get you playing D&D and Magic the Gathering, and you're gonna hate every minute of it.
It won't happen. I just can't get into that like slow, like I don't know. That's just
you're playing the wrong games if it's slow, buddy. I'm just saying. Come to our house. I just got done actually running a Candyland version of D&D for my group. I reskinned the entire world of D&D to have these savage candy-based creatures just ripping each other's head off, and
that's
all
awesome.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be able to see it in a video game. If you can like create a video game that goes with all that stuff, I honestly can't sit.
They already have them to some extent. I'm in the
that would be called Might and Magic or Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's I can deal with that stuff. But like sitting at a table with like my Kragan beats your Solophonist, and I can't get into that.
I love
it. I'll be like, let's roll on the floor and see who's Kragan beats their Sinopolis or whatever.
Right.
I need to be like I need to be moving and interactive. Maybe we could dress up and really fight. That'd be kind of
fun. So you want to get into LARP, live action roleplay? Okay, got it.
I don't want to be all weird though.
You're gonna be he's gonna be out in the woods bashing people with a styrofoam bat.
There you go, Steve.
No, I don't want a styrofoam bat. I'd rather use a real bat. Why would I use a styrofoam bat?
I think that's a website called bumfights.com.
You call me a bum, Lance? Come on.
No, I'm just saying if you want to beat people and have it be on public record.
I definitely don't. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a fighter.
Unless it's LARP, and then Steve brought the real bat. So there you go.
Right.
I'm like, gosh. I hope he says what LARP is, because I don't know what that means.
It's called LARP is live action role play.
Yeah, I got you.
You actually don the outfits and then you go out into the woods and beat each other with styrofoam bats and shields, and you throw sand at each other to be magic dust, and
I can't do that.
It's a whole world, man. It's a whole world.
Yeah, that's too much work for me.
I love it.
I'd rather just watch that on TV and laugh about it. I think it'd be cool to it's definitely a world I don't know anything about.
I don't mind admitting my nerdy side. It's allowed me to meet all kinds of interesting people all around the world, and
Dude, that's key though. And honestly,
the stuff they create blows me away. That's for sure.
And it seems like you've enjoyed the journey for sure, though. And I think I think that's actually a great lesson right there. Is taking opportunity when it presents it and not being ashamed of who you are for liking something that's an opportunity can take you so many amazing places. I mean, I almost feel like I tapped a little bit of my like Lamar Burton for reading Rainbow there, but
oh, dude, hell yeah!
But
love reading Rainbow.
Yeah, he made a comeback with that after a while. I think there was the campaign for it and everything, but
he's got a whole new thing going.
Yeah.
I mean, that just goes to show that when you do something you're passionate about and you love it, it stands the test of time. And I have people, that brings up a good point. I have people going, when is your next deck of cards coming out? When is your next deck of cards coming out? And I'm like, hold on. I'm not sitting here just pumping out deck after deck after deck. Yeah. I'm taking time and working on projects. When they are released, you'll understand why it's taken them that long to release. Look at the great classic painters and everything like that. Were they churning out piece after piece after piece? No. I mean, in some cases they were, but their commercial, the ones that they're remembered for, came out 5 and 10 years apart from each other. And I don't mind taking that extra time. I have a little bit of an old-fashioned mentality in that regards.
I respect that so much. You have no
may
idea.
not keep me in the public eye quite as frequently as some of the other, younger designers with the more robust portfolios, if you will, of projects under their belt. But hopefully my work makes an impact. When you see it, like those holographic playing cards, we did those behind the scenes for over 2.5 years and then broke them out, and everybody was like, wait, hold on, what?
That's awesome.
We're touching new technology people haven't even seen yet.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that's cool, and it's so rare and refreshing in this community, especially now where people are banging out 20 decks a month or a year or whatever. I think waiting and putting out the right thing is what's important, and it definitely separates people from others. Look at Justin Timberlake. That dude doesn't come out with albums, inside 10 years apart.
Oh my God.
Genius.
Yeah.
I have a man crush on Justin. So.
I think it's important to note there's markets for both of them, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The people who are churning out decks of cards on a rapid pace are meeting the demand of their buyers, their consumers, their fan base. There's cardistry is playing a huge role in the industry right now in the way that decks or cards are being generated. It's no longer, hey, I need something really fancy that is going to look good when I'm sitting there playing Gen with my family. It's, I want something that looks really dope, has minimal aesthetics, so that when I do these card ISOs, they flash just the right amount of style when I'm doing this move or this effect. And I've been lucky to come up through each of those different things. Like I said, I'm a collector. I've dabbled in cardistry. I was even a judge on Jaspis Dack's cardistry show for a while.
Nice.
Jaspis.
Yeah, Jaspis, dude, he's a freaking legend, man.
We had him.
We just had a show last week.
Yeah, he's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that guy. Love him.
Such a good dude. Yeah, such a good dude.
Yeah. So,
that's cool.
But yeah, that's my point. Like, there's so many different reasons for some of those decks to be coming out on a more rapid pace. But I don't mind being the one stepping back and being like, you know what? I'm going to take my time with this. I'm going to put some real tender love and care into it. And when you see it, you're going to understand why I took that time. There's not going to be a question in your mind as to why did this project take so long to come out.
Yeah.
I think of movies. You see a movie and they're like, this movie took 8 years and 800 people, and like that kind of epic level of presentation. Like, that's when my deck of cards launches. It'd be 18 years in the making. 1,500 pizza boxes left on the floor.
And on that note, if you want to hear more about Lance and his design process and really get an inside look into, how to take a deck of cards from ideation to, production ready, make sure to check out the 52 Plus Joker convention, October 14th to 17th. Lance is going to be a guest speaker there. And after today's conversation, I am super excited to listen to what you have to say about designing decks of cards, Lance.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
It was absolutely our pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for checking out this video. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and keep an eye out for the 52 Plus Joker convention. You can find out more information at 52plusjoker.org. Plus is spelled out, and we'll link to that in the description below.
Peace.